out for their premium sponsorship to this event, as well as Başak Sudodu and Ryan Key and Sanjeev Gupta. And thank you so much for being here. This is going to be an awesome event. We're going to be live streaming and also keeping it online. And I hope you're going to enjoy the workshop. You can take over and share. Everyone ask a question about who they are and what are we going to talk about today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Arjun. So thank you everyone for being here with us today. We're very excited and thank you so much to all of our panelists for sharing their valuable insights. We're going to turn it over to our panelists and then towards the end, we will open it up to a Q&A session. So I'll have you all introduce yourselves and then we can get started. Ryan, go ahead.
Well, nice to meet you, everybody. My name is Ryan Key. I'm a home loan advisor and a personal finance advisor to Goldman Sachs Credit Union. I've been in the business for about 18 years, and hopefully I can give you some useful insights when you're looking to purchase. Right?
Hello, everyone. Good morning. I already see some familiar faces here, and some of you, I'm very excited to meet with you today. My name is Başak Başalısudoğdu. I've graduated from Boğaziçi University and also had my MBA in Turkey as well. Then had a marketing from Cornell University. My main industry has been working in investment consultancy with Fortune 500 CEOs, which I've worked in many years. Then I transitioned into real estate industry, and I am working as a realtor with Christie's, which is the largest independent agency here in the Bay Area. I'm very excited to be here, and I look forward to sharing home buying process with you guys. Thanks.
So, hello everyone. So very nice to see you all today. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Burcu Akınal. I'm in Federal Real Estate Services, which we are like working under Berkshire Hathaway, one of the largest, actually the largest, company in the United States for real estate and home services. So I've been in the business over 20 years, and I have graduated from a finance department. I have a finance and business, international business background. So, and I'm specifically share my experience, like what I like to see, like more insight and just what it would affect me. Thank you so much for joining.
My name is Sanjeev Gupta. I'm a CP in the Bay Area. I've been practicing since 2004. And I have 3 offices in the Bay Area, Fremont, Sunnyvale, Pleasanton. I have a team of 25 people working with me. And main goal, everybody wants to pay taxes. So I can provide you some insight as to how we can pay taxes by through real estate income. So looking forward to my presentation. My presentation is of course very lengthy. It can be lengthy, it can be shorter, but I will go to the final point. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, everyone. So we're going to get started with the panel. We will first turn it over to our real estate specialists. They have a lot of insights to share. So we'll go ahead and start with Burcu.
Yes, we are just gonna probably just divide with Başak because we both have like good backgrounds and sort of backgrounds, and we are just gonna give you an overview today. So of course the subject is very deep and just like and personal as well at the same time. So we'll just do our best, and then later on we can go over the training. So, the potential for appreciation is also, especially in the valley, and like many other countries as well, we see that like in time, the, you know, potential for appreciation for real estate. Right? So, as I say, diversification is very important because we don't want to put all our like dollars under one bucket, like one bucket. We would like to diversify and then with that more steady income for the years to come. So other than that, control tax benefits absolutely even over control and tangibility. The first asset that owners can control. So you can manage, you can improve in time. So leverage and steady rental income should come along with owning the real estate as well. So for future investment properties, always, and what we recommend for people to just have in their future. But so we mostly ask questions regarding what drives our local Bay Area real estate market. This is really, really important because Bay Area is very unique in itself and also very different than many other areas in the country. So that really within newspapers or like or watch TV about just hear about news regarding real estate. So we need to understand what is it like right or is it local wide? So what is the coverage for? So every market, is always like they have like sub-markets, even just the local markets, even the neighborhoods, they just different from each other. So we cannot compare one area with in other states such as in other areas. We cannot put under one use. The most important thing that we have to know about our local market is we always have limited supply and demand really runs the whole show, I believe. So we always like it's known to have a limited supply in this valley. So since the land use is like very limited, the zoning, the restrictions, so where we cannot get the area bigger. So that's why we demand on housing is always like higher than we have innovation and investment. So that bring influx of people to the valley that helps to hold the value of real estate and just grow more. So supply and demand is the key. So quality of life, foreign investments, educational institutions, historical growth pattern in the area, and most of all, the weather. So we have a very mild weather that transforming equal to our local area. So to the valley. So that we have talked about that different market conditions. The markets cannot go up all the time and it's not going to go down. So what you see from 1984 to 2021, data goes like that far. So the real estate, there will be upturns and it has to normalize. And like in many other industries, but over the years, the outcome, the appreciation is going to be always there. Earlier we start, the better, and also there is we always just talk about like that we should get it. There is no time to it. So basically, we just want at the time that we are maybe Ryan is going to go over that section in detail. What happens when the rates are high? What happens when the rates are low? What is the impact on the real estate? So it's just I think be able to cover quite a bit on that. So, and the valley is rich. We have a lot of wealth in it. That's why we are one of the lucky areas that we just think that it's gonna be from around the levels of payment. So we just like our clients, like, what are the key factors? What should I look when I just buy it? So location, you hear that probably all the time, but it is true. So location is the key to the investment. So, because it's gonna be personal use, maybe it's gonna be a vacation home for you, or it's gonna be investment, but the location is gonna be whenever you buy a property, for the long term. So, and what are the long-term and short-term goals? So would you like to just, use the property, just stay there and then, sell in a couple of years? Or you would like to convert that to an investment property? So, or is this just for your kids? Or is it just for your family that you would like to keep for a long time? The goal is gonna just define the type of property that you will buy, the area you will buy, and then we are just gonna combine the budget and the finance. And community that you buy is going to be an issue, the important key factor. So the resale potential, we always look into that when we buy a property. So if it's going to be an issue when I say maybe I'm just gonna just pay this, but then when it's my turn and sell the property, what's going to be? Is it going to be something relative? Or like the other ones. So the schools, amenities, commutes, safety of the neighborhoods, lifetime, factors that's important for you. So these are very important factors that before you decide to invest, decide to buy real estate here or anywhere. I think these are the big factors that you need to just, decide for yourself and your family. So importance of working with a realtor. So basically, maybe you would like to know a little bit. Yes. Maybe you wonder actually what we do at the back. So because people say, oh, you have an open house, and then what else do you do? So maybe we can just go ahead with that. So the mortgages, the taxes, and the real estate part, unfortunately, doesn't happen over a couple hours. We almost work 7 days. So this is like a small, maybe a short list of what we do that we can just give you a little bit of feedback on that. And if I miss anything, please jump in at any time. So we guide our clients, buyers or sellers, throughout the process. This is our job. So basically, it involves our job, combines involves coordinating all the interactions among buyers, sellers, lenders, taxes, escrow firms, inspectors, government agencies, whatever that specific transaction calls for. So this is our job. So we just know the market insights probably better than anybody else. This is what we do every single day. The real-time data that we go over every single day is quite in detail that public is not able to see. We know every property, type of property, what is pending, what is sold, what is, is it like, what is the inventory is going, is it like high, low, what are the turnaround period that the properties are just going into transactions. So, these are the data that we guide our clients, seller or buyer, accordingly. So are we going to a multiple offer? How to strategize on that? Or if it is a seller, what kind of market we are in? So these are very important, up-to-date market knowledge is probably the key that you are not going to be able to just from the websites and what you read online. So multiple listing service is what we enter to that system, like public, what you guys see. However, we have the background also. We have 41 MLSs combined forces in California. The regional MLS in California is the largest in the United States. That means for you and for us, we are able to reach almost 2/3 of California properties in every single, land or, type of property like condos, townhomes, and single families, all of them. So that we can just give you a better data, we can just get those information for you. So property evaluation and guidance, this is very much the key from how we, guide our clients regarding what they should and they should not look for is very important to guide them to make a better decision. And liability mitigation and contracts and disclosures, this is exactly like what the main things we do. So real estate is a very high liability business. We carry a lot of responsibility, and the legality of the business, the regulations, the local government and federal government, the laws and regulations are very, very strict. So we do go over hundreds of pages of disclosures. We explain the contracts so that our clients are well protected, in case, just all the legal aspects are met, and they can just serve for their best. There is no lawsuit, there is no, pitfalls that they can have any issues later on during the transaction. So otherwise, we have all the inspections. We just go through with our clients through a lot of inspections reports that they need to know about their property, what they are buying, what are the pluses, minuses. So these are very, very highly detailed documents that we need to know and guide our clients, explain to our clients on daily basis. So again, risk management, negotiation of buyers or sellers behalf, pricing guidance, transaction management, closing coordination, and finally peace of mind. This is just our job to just deliver, to our buyers and sellers like on every single day. So basically, this is like what I need to probably that's going to go over shortly. So regarding what we do, I'm just going to pass to Başak right now, I guess, right? So, and she's going to go over this, I think,
Yes, thank you so much, Jordan. That was very valuable insight. And now we're going to be passing it along to Başak.
Thank you, guys. I'm just waiting for the presentation to come for a second. I'm also doing the budget. This is the briefing. Okay. Well, I'll start while they are putting through. Is it coming? Yeah,
Yes,
we can
it's
go
on.
to the. Okay, perfect. So, guys, what I wanted to say is actually to give you a quick insight about what are the differences of buying real estate here in the US. Already, we'll just start giving you quite a lot of hints of the possible differences about details here. Coming from most of us, I believe, we're from Turkey, but there are other nationalities, or you might have lived elsewhere, you might have owned properties in other countries. I've lived in Asia, Europe, so I've gone through the process in different parts of the world. The US is very unique in many aspects. So I try to put here what are the main aspects, and I'll try to get into the details a little bit. So the first is the offer process, then like Burcu mentioned, disclosures, the transaction process, what we call the escrow is very different here. And also the agency relationship, the expectations and the duties of the realtors here are quite different here in US. So I'll start with the offer process. So the offer process here, I can say that it's quite different than other parts of the world. Let's consider Turkey. If you ever purchased a home in Turkey, it's quite straightforward. You like a home, there's a set price. You say, okay, I'm in, I want to buy it. Either you get the house for that price, or possibly you can even negotiate for less, and you get it probably in a few days. You can transfer it at the temple. However, here it's not really the case. Like Burcu said, traditionally, unfortunately, there is a shortage of housing. As of August, I'll give you the exact stat. We have, end of August, we have only 2 months of inventory left. It's extremely low. So that means that when you go and like a house and you want to get it, probably there's 4 or 5 other people who are ready to get the house. So you will have to compete. Again, there are always exceptions. There might not be other people interested, but it's quite rare. So when this happens, it means there are going to be multiple offers presented to the seller, and it means the best offer will win the deal. So what does it mean, the best offer? Everybody asks me all the time. It's not just about the price. The price is crucial, but at the same time, as you see here, it's about the contingencies that you're going to be putting on your offer. What are the other terms and conditions? Such as, are you buying it in cash? Are you getting a loan? What's the possession date you want to acquire the house? In how many days you can close? Who's your lender? How many days he can close? And who's your agent? These factors will all contribute in how competitive your offer can be. Contingencies, like I said, it's another important factor in your offers. Which means, if you're not familiar with the term, contingency is a contractual condition for a specific event or an action. Which means, let's say you're getting a loan, you're going to put an offer with a mortgage. But what if you can't get it? What if the house appraises for less, and you will have to come up with that difference? Are you okay with this? Are you going to take this risk or not? So you have to put all of these in your offer, which is again going to make you more competitive or less competitive, or a property contingency. If you want to make sure that you want to do some further inspections in the property before you buy that, before you commit to your contract, you can put a property contingency in your contract. But if somebody else does not have it in their offer, then probably they're going to be, more likely to win the deal. Again, we would decide if you have to, if you don't have to, on a case-by-case basis, we decide what's the best strategy. But this is what really makes the US home buying process quite complicated. The other thing is, like Burcu mentioned, is the disclosures and the inspection reports. Like, again, let's consider Turkey. You want to buy a house. You can perform, as a buyer, you can perform an inspection at your own cost anytime you want. Usually there's no time pressure on you. But here, there are disclosures that are legally obligated for the sellers to complete, and they have to provide it to the buyers. And in Bay Area, again, like Burcu said, we are literally leading the nation in terms of our standards of practice. You will see that even inspection reports are done, although they're not legally obligated, just to speed up the process. You will see that the inspection reports are even completed right away by the seller for the buyers, so that before you even put an offer, you know what you're getting into. So basically, when you decide to put an offer in the house, you have to ask your agent to provide you the disclosure package. That will involve all the material facts about the house that are disclosed, and you will be asked to sign these legal documents to acknowledge that you know what you're getting into. So this is another important difference of how to buy property in the US and in particular in the Bay Area. So these are all the disclosures that you're going to be dealing with, that you'll have to read. These are, by the way, guys, hundreds of pages of documents. So you really need a real estate agent next to you. We're not expecting you to understand these. They can be quite overwhelming. Sometimes when we are rushed, we send these immediately to the potential buyer to go through them, but they're very complicated. Ideally, what I would always do with my clients is that I would go through all these disclosures, hundreds of pages of documents, page by page, with the client to make sure that they really understand what this house is about. Because let's not forget, in Bay Area, the homes are quite old. So there are a lot of issues, and that's normal. There are a lot of repairs, a lot of maintenance. So you really need to understand who's doing what's the possible cost, and if you want to get involved or not. If you want, you sign it off. If you don't want, we move on to the next house. But you really need to be able to understand what these documents are all about. The transaction process is quite different here too, which is what we call the escrow. Like in Turkey or many other countries, what happens is that the property ownership is established directly at the tapu. Seller and owner, you show up at the tapu on the assigned date. You even transact there on the spot, sign on the spot, the deed is transferred on the spot, shake hands, bye-bye. Here, it's not the case. There's what we call an escrow, which is a neutral party who will hold the fund and all the documents before the actual title deed transfer happens. And this process is not on the spot. It will take somewhere around 30 to 45 days. If it's a cash purchase, it might be a little bit shorter, but on average, we're expecting 30 to 45 days. So that's why it's extremely important for the realtors to be able to manage this transaction in a smooth way. So I'm not sure about the resolution, if you can see clearly, because it's quite a big screen. Well, this is the whole transaction journey, guys. It's quite complicated. You can see. I'll just run you through very quickly all the details. So this is the journey that you're supposed to go through from the moment you select the house, I want it, to the moment you get the keys. So this is the journey of actually 50 to 60 days, because the offer process is still counting here. That's why I always tell people, you have to start the process early. Even when you select the home, you still have like 50, 60 days to get your keys. And finding the home itself will take how long?
Sometimes months.
Usually
Sometimes like
months.
days. Like just
It's a matter
it's
of
a
luck.
matter of luck.
Exactly.
So we can just like get the offer.
Yes, exactly. So
Right.
it all depends. You're gonna put offers, you're gonna be outbid, your offers are gonna be rejected. So we're looking at least 6 months process to up to a year. So always start early. This is a long, long process. So if you look at the journey here, what will happen is that, so first you decide on the home, your agent is gonna get the disclosures, you're gonna sit down, you're gonna read these hundreds of pages of documents, you're gonna have probably tons of questions. Your real estate agent is gonna answer these questions, or there might be possible further calls with the inspectors, etc., just to get all those technical questions answered. Once you're good with them, once you're okay to move with your offer, then you will need to sign the disclosure package along with your offer. And with your offer, you will be always asked your pre-approval, should be with you if you're getting a mortgage. Exactly, that's why Ryan gives
That's why I'm here.
picture, exactly. There is no way, if you don't have your pre-approval in your hand, you will not be able to put your offer in. You will even be asked, if you're a cash buyer or you're gonna put deposit, you'll be asked, proof of funds. So you will have to take a snapshot of your bank account, whatever your savings account, you can just, consult your, bank account details, but your name should be visible. Proof of funds should be there as well. So this will be sent to the seller's agent. Seller's agent will review all these offers with the seller himself or herself, and then either you're gonna get your offer accepted, great, or you're gonna receive a straight no. Or you might receive a counter offer. So this is another step. Then that's when you need to, start into the negotiation process. And finally, when your offer gets accepted, great, all the papers are signed off, sent to the escrow company. And within 24 hours, this is super important in Bay Area, 24 hours, you will be asked to transfer your deposit. It used to be 3 days. I mean, it's still technically 3 days, but in the Bay Area, due to the competitiveness, 24 hours. Your deposit is in. That's when the escrow process starts, and your lender is going to ask for an appraisal, which he will get into details what an appraisal is. And then hopefully the house gets appraised, and you will have to remove any contingencies within that time if you have any, although pretty much we don't put many contingencies here in today's market. Contingencies are removed, the loan comes in, the loan document, the loan is approved, the loan documents are submitted to the escrow, and then loan, escrow, and title documents they will be all signed at the title company with a mobile notary. And things are moving forward. One last thing you will be asked as a buyer is to have a final walkthrough of the property, because you want to make sure you're about to get the property. So you want to make sure that it's going to be delivered to you in the promised condition. So once you prove that, the loan funding comes in, and it reaches the escrow closes, the title is transferred. That's the only time you can pop the champagne, the house is yours, and then the keys are going to be delivered. So it's quite a process. So we have a free buyer's guide. I prepared it for you guys. It's quite comprehensive. It's like 27 pages that explains you all the details. If you want to take a snapshot of it, it will lead you there. So this is the entire process that you need to go through, and that's why it's very important to have a good agent who is a good advocate for you. And one thing also I wanted to highlight, and just as an addition to what Burcu said, what's also different here is that it's the agency process. There's a very clear distinction of who is a seller's agent and who is a buyer's agent here. Sometimes confusions happen because we're all using the internet. Where do we see all these listings? Zillow, Redfin, etc. It's very easy to book an appointment to go see the house. We get excited. You don't know who you're dealing with. So in US, like I said, there's a very clear distinction. And sometimes without knowing, we see that buyers are reaching out to the listing agent, and they think it's okay, or they think it's their responsibility because they put the house on the market, so they're supposed to put the offer together with them, or they're gonna get a better deal with them. It is not the case. You have to have a separate buyer's agent, because don't forget, this is very important, guys. Seller's agent responsibility is they have a fiduciary duty for the seller. Their job is to sell that house in the shortest time possible for the highest price. Are you willing to pay that highest price? No, you shouldn't be willing to. There's no need. So that's why you need a seller's agent who is going to be your advocate to get you a house. It could be that house or another house. A house that fits your criteria, your family's lifestyle, your budget, your timeline, etc. So it's very common in US that people actually have exclusive, the agents, they have exclusive representation from their clients. So people commit, they have a dedicated and a focused partnership. Like me, when I work with my buyers, I exclusively represent them. I know everything about their family, what their needs are, what they need, where do they look for, what's their timeline, and I fully commit to them. And in the end, I expect the same commitment from the buyers. Why? Because if they start looking around with other buyers, the other homes, this creates a lot of confusion and what we call a procuring clause, which means you don't know at the end of the day who is given credit for you to get that house, and it creates legal disputes, unfortunately. So it gets very confusing. That's why it's very important to work with one buyer's agent as long as you're happy with their service, of course. And then if you're not happy, you can always switch, which is totally fine. But complete the process with a buyer's agent. And in the US, you see that just like you have a primary care physician whom your family has been with for many years, people have their agents, they use their homes with, and they buy a new home with, and they switch their homes and they work with, as long as they're happy, they work with the same realtor for years and years and over generations. That's a very common thing here. And I think this is due to the complications and the intricacies of the process here. That is all I've got to say, and I will leave it for ladies.
One thing that I
Sure.
would like
Yeah,
to add,
please.
actually, our job sometimes doesn't end at the, like, when we just hand our keys to our, clients. So after that,
Mhm.
we continue the support
And the
and
service.
the service on regular basis, because we have network, we have, connection. So basically for any repairs and designers and, the interior, architects, like contractors. So basically, we continue to serve on, years to come. So whenever they need. So basically, so we love what we do. And
Absolutely.
basically, yes, exactly. So go on.
Thank you so much to both of you, and Başak, that was incredible guidance. So you have to give a alkış for both. So now we're going to turn it over to a very important, very essential part of the home buying process, which is, of course, lending. So I'm going to turn it over to Ryan Key here with, who's our lender from Golden One Credit Union.
Well, thank you first for being with us, continuing to be with us. I'm going to cover a few topics today. So these are some of the common questions I get from the buyers. Is it still a good time to buy? And where are the rates? Where are they going? What are the processes of obtaining a mortgage, and how do you choose the lender that you want to work with? And ultimately, what we're before us here to do is to guide you from a successful home buyer to an actual successful homeowner. So hopefully I can guide you and give you some information there. So first of all, I will cover the US real estate market in general because it does affect how rates are priced and how lenders underwrite and approve the loans. So this is broad. This is not our local area. This is the entire US. But according to Case-Shiller, since 1943, home values went up 90% of the time. We're looking at an 80-year accumulation of data, and it actually went down 7 times and was flat in 1 year, and the rest it always went up. The other question that I get is, well, our economy currently is slow, and maybe there's a recession coming. What if I buy a property today and the home value drops? Well, if you look at the historical data, recession and home value declines are not actually correlated. The only time we actually see that significantly is during the subprime mortgage crisis. And if I go and look at our local counties a little bit more, Santa Clara, San Mateo, and Alameda, from 2000 to 2023, currently, the left side graph is the home price in the year. So as you can see, it did go down during 2008 and 2009, but in most of the time, it actually went up. And if you look at the graph on the right-hand side, you can see these 2 years that dropped significantly, but in most cases it went up. But also, I want to point out how fast prices increased over time. So, except for 2008, 2009, they went down less than 10%, but following that year, it always increased above 10%. So that's what we're dealing with every time that we consult clients. Now, Some people still think that we're going to have a real estate market crash. But compared to 2008, there's quite a significant difference. So back in 2008, there was 4 million properties for sale. Right now, there's less than 1 million in the entire US. Prior to 2008, there were 7.65 million properties that were newly constructed. Since then, from like 2018 till now, there was only 4.6 million. So there's definitely less supply of it. However, there was an increase in number of households, and the lending standards are significantly different from 2008 to current. And we're not going to have subprime mortgage prices because there's no subprime lending. The unemployment rate is also really low compared to 2008. There's low mortgage delinquency. There's basically no foreclosure. So in short, we're not going to see a market crash like 2008. Now, as Bridget mentioned, the reason that our prices continue to go up in the US is because of the historically low inventory. Now, with that, there is a high mortgage rate, which is affecting every one of you, and I get that. But you have to think beyond just the interest rates and think about what kind of advantage that is for you, because the rates are high, which means there's less competition out there. And when we look at our local real estate, it's very competitive. So if you can get in when there's less competition, that's always better. And just looking at one more data, this is the Redfin active listings and all the metros that they participate in. And you can see, compared to the last 4 years, the blue line is 2023, how low the active listings are. So there's basically nothing on the market compared to the prior years. And then I'll go on to the mortgage rates. So you all know rates are high. It's due to inflation. A typical 30-year mortgage is above 7% right now. Just a few years ago, it was low 3%. So it's more than twice what it used to be. And it's painful for you guys, but ultimately it is going to stay there and maybe go down a little bit. So we know that recession is coming, either recession or slow economy. And when it comes, it will definitely help lower interest rates. It's really a matter of when that happens, not if it will happen. And ultimately, I think rates will stabilize around the low 6% range over time. It will take quite a bit of time, like 12 months to 18 months to get there, but that's ultimately where it should settle. Rates never move down or up in a straight line. They're always volatile. So there's always pockets of opportunity. But it's very difficult to find the right interest rate out there. Now, just note this. Lower the rate, there's significantly more competition out there. And Black Knight, which is one of those data companies, estimates that every 1% reduction in interest rate, there's about 1 million households in the US that can qualify to buy a house. Just think how that affects you when you're competing against other buyers. So the next section, I'm going to go over how obtaining a mortgage works out. So honestly, obtaining a mortgage, whether you go with me or any other lender, is pretty much the same. The process itself is very similar. Before you start making offers, we will ask you to provide certain documents, like the pay stubs, W-2s, tax returns, statements. And we will review your credit profile, employment history, income, assets, debt to income ratio, and stuff like that. And then after reviewing of those documents, we will decide on a mortgage option that suits your needs. And then you'll have a pre-approval letter, and you'll provide that to your real estate agent, and you'll be looking at properties and making offers. Once you're in contract, there's a lot of disclosures that we send you regarding the terms of the loan, the payments, the penalties, and what you need to understand. That would be the first process once you're in contract. Then we'll be ordering an appraisal. I tried to mention briefly about the appraisal. It's a third-party evaluation of the property that you're trying to purchase. And lenders provide loans based on the appraised value or the contract price, whichever is lower. For example, you can get up to 80% value of an appraisal or your contract price as a loan. And the amount of time that it takes to get an appraisal done is important because it affects how long it takes for you to close it. It can also affect how long it takes for you to remove the appraisal contingency. And they're not cheap. They're running between $700 to $1,000. And once we have the appraisal and all of the documents and your disclosures assigned, the underwriter is going to review your documents and issue a conditional or an initial loan approval. And at that point in time, you may elect to remove the financing contingencies. And as long as everything else during the real estate transaction goes forward as expected, then you should have the final loan approval. Now, when we get closer to actually closing escrow, the lender will send you something called the closing disclosure. This is very similar to the initial disclosure that you get, but a little bit closer to the actual terms that you will finalize. Now, one thing about excuse me. One thing about the closing disclosure is that there is a legally required waiting period. So if you have let's say a 30-day closing escrow, then you need to have these disclosures to you at least 3 business days so that you can close on it. Once you pass the waiting period, you're allowed to sign your loan documents. It's very close, and then the lender will fund and you will have reporting and then ultimately will receive the keys. So that's how the loan process works. Now, again, as I said, it's pretty much the same for everybody. So that's not really my value proposition. So what I believe my value is in providing you the information, the education, and the planning that you really need as home buyer prior to getting into contract. And then, of course, once you're in contract, I'll manage everything. But more importantly, once you become a homeowner, I want to help you guys become a successful homeowner. There will be opportunities that I'll show you later in my presentation. And ultimately, I want you to find and work with a lender that you feel comfortable with, and ultimately save you the most money and time. And just understand rates and fees, which are the only 2 questions that I get from a buyer, are really not everything. There's much more to a loan than just the rates and fees. Obviously, I will provide competitive interest rates and competitive fees, but there is teamwork involved. So I work with the realtors here, and real estate is a very, very much a human-to-human interaction. So realtors show you the properties, you get to like it. The realtors and I present your offer to the listing agent, who then presents your offers to the sellers. Every step of the way, there's somebody involved. It's not like buying something on Amazon, they just click. There's always interaction, there's always terms to negotiate, there's always questions to be asked and answers to be had. So just work with somebody that knows the process, that has the relationship, that knows the market. And then research about the lender that you're working with upfront and try to stick with them, because when you try to change the lender during a transaction, nobody likes it. It's a red flag, nobody likes it. And then the next section is regarding how to become a successful homeowner. So I actually spend much more time upfront with my clients than most lenders. And that's where I introduce myself as a personal finance advisor. That's where that expertise comes in. And the way that I see it is that I want to make you guys as educated and informed as possible as a home buyer. So that involves a lot of planning. So that's the first step before we prepare for the transaction. And When you're looking to buy or thinking about buying real estate, it is a huge financial decision. But before being a financial decision, it is a lifestyle decision. It impacts everything in your life, where you live, where your kids go to school, whether you're happy with your home. And that's what you need to focus on and understand first. Because home prices are expensive here. And trust me, every single buyer tells me that the home that they're trying to buy is too expensive. Every single one. Now, which is very, very true. And that's how I felt when I purchased mine. But you can't determine the value of a home when you're trying to make the purchase. You only know after several months or maybe several years after you lived in the property. So if you love the property and it gives you great energy every morning, your family loves it, you have great memories there, your friends come over all the time, then really you can't overpay for that property. But if nobody likes it, it's in a bad location, and you're not excited about the property every single day, then no matter how little you pay for that property, you may have overpaid for it. So the value of real estate is not something that you can immediately see and grasp when you're purchasing it. It comes with time. So please understand that. And then the other thing is, when a mortgage lender qualifies you based on the lending guidelines, that doesn't take into account what you can actually afford. Two different things. Qualification is just guidelines and numbers. A lender can use, let's say, 45% of your income to service your debt. What does that mean? Nothing much. Especially when you're in the Bay Area where the home values are the highest in the US. If you commit, let's say, 50% of your income to pay mortgages and taxes, maybe you don't have enough left over for your living expenses. So when I do a planning session, this is what I look at. I qualify you based on what you can afford. So that means understanding your monthly cash flow, how your net worth grows over time when you purchase versus rent, when you purchase a property that's 1.5 million versus a 2 million. How that decision impacts your long term. So for example, if you buy a $1.5 million home and you don't have to send your kids to private school versus going to a better neighborhood, paying $2 million for it, but don't send kids to private school, how does that affect your cash flow? How will it affect your long term? So I'll show you a brief screenshot of what I go through with my clients. So this is software that I use that we have developed before at my previous company. And we actually input your income, your assets, and your expenses. And then we go through different scenarios of different price points for homes. Like on the right-hand side, we look at different price points. We also look at your net worth, your home equity, and then your cash flow. So what I look at is I compare your current expenses and your cash flow and make sure that you can still support your lifestyle after you purchase the next one. And that allows me to set and give you a specific range of budget when you're paying for a property. It has nothing to do with what you can qualify for, and that allows you to know what your limits are and what you're committing to. And that also helps when you're in a multiple offer situation and you're asked to bid over the asking price. So if you know your limits, and let's say your realtor comes back and say, hey, you need to increase your offer by another 50,000, then you know whether you can do it or not before you actually, most lenders work the other way. When the realtor asks, oh, can my buyer go another $50,000 up? Then they get that phone call and they start qualifying them again on their computer. And then tell them, okay, I think we can do it, or no, they can't do it. That's not really how you should think about it. You should know your limits of what you can qualify for and what you can afford before you go into those kind of situations. And that's what I'm going to help you do. And then that will ultimately allow you to be an informed buyer. And one of the other things that I look at is also cost of waiting. So I told you earlier, home values go up 90% of the time. So rates are high, let's wait. Economy is going to be slow, let's wait. Well, what actually is the cost of waiting? So most buyers think I'm paying $3,000 in rent. If I buy a home now, I'll be paying $5,000. It's another increase of $2,000. I don't think it's a good time to buy. Well, that's not the only thing that you're missing out on. First of all, home prices, if it goes up as expected, then you're losing out on the home price appreciation. Number two, you're losing out because if the prices indeed go up and you need to buy the same property a year later, you need to put more down payment because simply the home prices are higher. Number three, I said the rates are high, there's less competition now. So it's very likely that it's easier and cheaper to buy a property now than it is when the rates are hitting 6%. Because ultimately, home values are determined, or the home sale prices are determined by whatever a buyer is willing to pay for it. There's nothing to do with what the seller wants to sell the property for. It has nothing to do with the market data like Zillow and Redfin showing, this home is worth 1.8 million. It's really a buyer who really loves the property and they buy it for 2.2, then that is the market value of that property. So that's what you're competing against, and that's the costs that incur when you wait. Okay. The next steps to being a successful home buyer. So there's actually, from my point of view as a lender, only one way to save you money when you're a home buyer. And that is getting into contract as soon as possible. I told you that saves you money over time, but also, it's a multiple offer situation and there's 5 buyers for one property. One buyer gets it, is the remaining 4. The next similar property comes along and the starting sale price expectation for the seller is the last sale price of the previous one. And then you still have your 4 competitors, maybe time passes, there's another buyer who wants to buy the same property. So you are always competing. The prices are likely to always go up, especially with a low inventory. So getting into contract early, soonest, is realistically the only way that you want to save money. Because once you have the property, you can refinance and lower your interest rate later. Now, to help you get into contract as soon as possible, we do the preparation like the planning section that I mentioned. But also, I want you guys to make offers with no loan contingencies. So then just talk about pre-qualification, pre-approval. I think for our specific area, they are not really effective. You need to have a fully underwritten approved loan. So that means running your credit, verifying your income, and actually getting a letter from an underwriter that says your loan is. That means you don't have to have loan contingencies when you make an offer. And it also means that you can present yourself as a really strong buyer and perhaps compete with cash offers. Now, the other thing is, over time, underwriting requirements can change. And also, your income can change. Now, whatever salary that you get from the company may not change, it may actually increase. But think about, let's say, a buyer wants to buy during a recession. So what happens is the buyer has salary and then part of his income is stock compensation. Then during a recession, it's very common to see stock values to decline. That means your usable income to qualify for a mortgage also declines. So it can actually hit you that way. Plus, when it's a recession, lenders change their guidelines to require higher down payments. Right now, 20%, 15% is even possible, but it's rare. It's usually 20%, and in some counties 25%. But lenders can increase that to 30%, even 35% if they want to. especially in our area when you're getting jumbo loans. So just remember that waiting and trying to time something is not really going to work because it's very difficult. And then, as I said, getting into contract during the transaction, in red, I said saving your money is helping your offer get accepted ASAP. So everything that I do for you guys during and prior to the transaction is to get you ready and increase the likelihood of getting your offer accepted. So that means educating you, planning, getting a fully approved loan, and then closing escrow quickly. I can close as quickly as 15 days if I need to. Typical turn times are 30 days. But I can have that if I have to. The point is, you want to stand out as the strongest offer amongst all the others, so that the seller chooses your offer. And that's how I strategize, and I always also have backup plans because you never know what's going to happen during a loan process or during a real estate transaction. It's very rare, but sometimes appraisals come in below the offer price. But I always prepare my clients to understand what happens and what are the backup options when something like that happens, for example. And you need to have multiple loan options or source of assets that you can draw from. And then after the transaction, real estate agents are your agents for life. You have you build great relationships with them because you share a lot of your personal thoughts and feelings about properties with them. I don't get to share that, but as a lender, I always revisit the plan when you have life changes. So as my client, I offer my clients a chance to come back to me and revisit the plans that we have done before, especially when there are life changes. And an example of that would be a job change, like a job change. Large expenses come to you, like home expenses for your children. Or you may want to fund. It's a larger problem. And I can always help you plan those things down, just like I did when you were purchasing your home first. And then there's always opportunities for everybody to refinance. And that will lower your rates, and always it could also provide access to get equity that you've built up in the property over time, or you may want to remodel it. So I can always help you throughout the home ownership. And I think that ends my presentation.
That's really what Ryan,
Yeah.
just mentioned a little bit, couple of years back, when we were like having this COVID period, then the rates were like 2-3%. The amount of competition and the offers we presented was like 200 to 1 million range above the asking price. So, now the rates are high, but the property, values just, the pricing is just going to be just put it back to normal market for us. So this is more balanced. During the 2008 crash, I was just checking the data that we have. We just went up to, in this valley, to 5,600 properties for sale. Now we have 841 properties and couple hundred town on condo properties for sale. So the demand and what we have at this point doesn't even match. So that's why when you look at the the news and everything, so always think like, what is our local markets actually is. So it is definitely agree on the rates.
And that's a very good point, and thank you so much for such incredible guidance, Ryan. So last but not least, I'm going to be turning it over.
Okay, so this is my annual event I do every year. The Wealth Summit. So we have financial planners there, we have estate planning attorney there, Of course, I'm there at tax plan. And then the full day event. It's done in earlier it was done in the SCC, Indian Cultural Center. Now it's being done in the banquet hall. All obviously get 450, 500 people attending this summit. It's a full day event, a lot of information, a lot of interaction. Because real estate is not only buying real estate or selling real estate, also you need to protect your money. So all this will be covered in the full day event. We have happening on December 10th. So, new work. Okay, so let's start with real estate. Real estate is a very big word in terms of taxes. It can be primary home, it can be investment home, it can be rental home, it can be commercial property, it can be anything related with land. So when you look at real estate, you look at the definition of real estate from tax point of view. One is a primary, is a single family. Is it condominium? Is it a townhouse? Is it commercial property? It's only land. So we look at different aspects of real estate and we classify them accordingly for tax purposes. Because if you classify properly, you get more tax benefits. And tax benefits are very huge for real estate. Very, very huge. Only thing is we don't know how to use them. Real estate for tax advantage. So let's start with that one. First is, before you go into real estate, understanding what real estate tax brings to your plate, you need to understand two things. One, what's your filing status? And secondly, what's your taxable income? So when you talk about filing status, are you single? Are you filing joint? Are you filing as married filing joint? Are you filing as head of household? So that matters a lot because tax rates are based on that filing status. So if you're married filing joint, you get more tax benefits as compared to single. Head of household gets some more tax benefit. So the second part of that is taxable income. What do you mean by taxable income? Taxable income is you take income from all different sources like W2, business income, capital gains, stock gains, stock losses. You have retirement distributions. Your K1s coming from different investments. As corporation, K1 coming from LLCs. Then you do all those adding of all that income. That becomes your AGI. That's adjusted gross income. And that adjusted gross income is so vital to claiming a lot of deductions, a lot of credits. Then from AGI, we deduct the itemized deductions or standard deduction. Standard deduction is if you're married filing joint, you get 25,000. You don't have to do anything. You get that 25,000. Period. If you are looking to buy a home, the most important thing of when you buy a home is mortgage interest reduction. It increases the standard deduction by the mortgage interest that you pay beyond 25,000. Whatever extra amount you get, let's say the mortgage interest is $40,000. So you get 15,000 extra benefit. That reduces your taxable income. So adjusted gross income, then you minus the itemized reduction, then you minus the credits, and then we arrive at the taxable income, and then we compute a tax liabilities number. So it's a valuable real estate is a valuable asset where you can use it for reducing your taxes properly. After understanding the filing status and the taxable income, what is the advantage of buying a brand new home? It's mortgage interest. Like I said, the interest on the loan. But with the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, if you recall tax federal income, he doesn't like California. He doesn't like New York because they do not vote for it. So that's why he took out a lot of benefits from the real estate, particularly in the California state. First thing is they lowered the interest deduction on the loan amount from $1 billion to $750,000. If the loan is $800,000, it's fully deductible of about up to $750K. Extra is prorated for the term of the loan. So you lose some benefit on the mortgage. If the loan amount is less than $750,000, you can deduct the full interest amount. Obviously, your taxable income. Like I said, taxable income. Remember the taxable income I said, like AGI minus the itemized deductions. So mortgage interest is part of itemized deductions. It increases your survey deduction by that amount of interest. So now if let's say your loan is more than 800,000, of course, in a Bay Area, the property is not 1 million, it can be 1.5, 2 million, $3 million. Loan has to be 60%, 50, 40, 50, 70%, right? 70%, so interest will be higher. So is there any way to get around this? Of course, there are a lot of ways to get around it. One, you can look into starting a business, a side business, so that you can look into home office deduction. When you use home office deduction, you can prorate the property taxes, the mortgage interest, the repairs that you do in the home. So you can lower that. So that's a workaround. If you have S corporation, LLC, work around this pass to entity tax and collect utility tax. That's also work around here. Real estate taxes, property taxes, one area there. Again, with the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, again, thanks to tax-free income, we lowered our state tax threshold. We lowered our property tax threshold. It's now only $10,000. So $10,000 consists of state tax withholding and property tax. Combined, it's $10,000. Now, we are in the area, we in California, everybody pays 8 to 12% of California tax. If you make 300K, minimum tax is 24,000 for California. So, and property tax is 1.125% of the property value. So if you buy a property of 1 million, 1.125 is 12,000. 12 plus the state tax, which will be 24, it's $36,000. Earlier you were able to deduct 36,000. Now you're able to deduct only 10,000. You lose $24,000 worth of deductions just because of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. How to go around it? Very simple. Look at some kind of business. You can turn real estate into a business. Real estate by definition is a passive activity. When you say passive, that means that you're not doing anything to make money. It's the asset that is creating income for you. It becomes, so it's not generating, you're not doing anything to earn that income. So that's a passive. Active is, you convert that real estate into a business. When you convert the real estate into business, home office also comes into play. You get a lot of benefits. You can get losses from the real estate to set up your income. But if you're not active, of course you become passive, and then you have all this limitation. But then you can look into other side of starting a business. So the home office deduction becomes very important. You can also deduct, so when you buy a family home, in the closing escrow document, you get a lot of money. You get real estate property tax paid, you get mortgage interest paid up to the date of after closure of the loan. So all those expenses, don't forget about this. It's a private mortgage insurance. Of course, you pay PMI, the loan is 80-20, 80-10, or 70-10-10, 80-10-10. So you have to get the PMI. If you pay that mortgage insurance, you can deduct that also. But then income limits are lower. I mean, the AGI is lower. If you're married filing joint, your income limit is up to $120,000. If you're making more than that, any insurance that you pay for private mortgage, you don't get any deduction. Like I keep saying about the home office deduction, it's a valuable deduction. One of the important other advantage of home office is there is no commuting disallowance. Commuting is going from your home to your office for work. That stretch, that mileage goes out. But if your home office, there's no commuting expense. Every mileage that you drive is tax deduction. So home office, now a lot of people worry about taking home office as a deduction. They keep saying, if you take home office, you can get all of it. Or CPA, your tax professional will say, don't take home office. This which will put you in trouble. No, it's not going to put in trouble. But the main thing is here with the home office is you should have a room or a place exclusively for running that business. There should not be any personal item inside that home office. Then inside that place, take a picture of that place, and then later on you can do anything. take a picture for tax purposes. So that you can show to the IRS auditor that you are using that home exclusively for business, only and exclusively for business. If you have an office, if you also have an office and you're also working from home, you can still deduct the home office deduction. If there's a exception to the rule, you can still deduct the home office as a deduction because you're doing business. Not only from one place, you can do it multiple places. In the evening, you come to the office, you meet your clients for lunch or dinner at your home. That becomes your meeting place, business place. So definitely one of the important areas is home office deduction. If you do any improvement to your home for medical purposes, building a sidewalk, installing ramps or lifts, don't ignore that also. That is also important deduction on the medical expenses. Of course, the medical expense should exceed 7.5% of a year. But if you do all those improvements, keep a record of all those improvements, that will help you in getting deductions and also help you when you sell the property later on, because it increases the cost of the property. An important area of buying why should people buy a home? Like I said, tax advantage is a lot, real estate. One important tax advantage here is 121 exclusion, if we call it $500,000 exclusion from the gate. What does it mean? If you buy a real estate as a family home and you live in that home for 2 years, in a block of 5 years, and you sell that home in the third year, you can exclude up to $500,000 gain from the sale of that property. $500,000. Now let's look at $500,000. How much tax saving is it? So there's a federal saving, there's a California saving. Federal can be anywhere from your bracket can be 30%, 25 to 35%. California can be anywhere from 8 to 12%, depending upon the income level. Roughly, we take it like a 30% benefit, federal and state. $150,000 worth of taxes you can save from that sale of that property. So where can you get that benefit? It's only from this. So that doesn't mean you can keep changing your home, selling after 2 years. A lot of people do that. They buy a property, they stay in that home for 2 years, 3 years, and then they sell it. But I will suggest you not to do that. As a family tip, we always say, rent it out. Why to sell? When you rent it out, you create rental income. And when you create rental income, there's no limit on mortgage interest. There's no limit on property tax deduction. On top of it, you get depreciation. We're going to cover that in this one. For a primary home, this is also it changed in 2022. Inflation Reduction Act was passed in 2022. It gives anything energy efficient improvement that you do, you get some deduction. So so you have $150 for solar home energy audits. You have $2,000 for electrical, natural gas, heat pump, water heaters. So you get all those deductions. So make sure that you don't miss that when preparing your tax. Bring it to the tax purpose. Then we also have a residential clean energy period. That was jumped 26% of the cost to install any oil tank system, that is solar, wind, biomass. A lot of people use solar installation on their homes. So when you buy a family home, install solar, whether you like it or not, because it saves tax 26%. And that really helps you in reducing your cost. Like I installed solar in my home, it saves me a lot. Plus, I get a tax reduction. It's a credit. It's not a tax reduction. Credit is it lowers the taxes dollar by dollar. Deduction lowers your tax rate on that deduction. But credit is dollar to dollar reduction. Now you can start looking at installing solar system. Maybe you're not able to install solar system during the year. It may go into next year. So make sure that you make the payment before December 31st, so that you get a deduction for 26%. The regulation is not when you complete the installation, the regulation is based on the payment. of the product. So you can do solar installation on your home. That is also important. Now, when you buy, why do you buy rental properties, investment properties? The reason why we buy rental property or we convert family home to rental property is because we want to diversify. Now you're putting money, maybe you're putting money in stocks, you're putting money in mutual fund, cryptocurrencies. I don't know how many you're putting in cryptocurrencies, but it's gone south. But of fraud has happened in cryptocurrency. But anyway, you put money into all those areas. You don't want to put money, never thinking about real estate, because it's expensive. It requires a lot of cash down payment. But like Ryan said, with all the graphs, we lose such a big benefit of not buying the real estate. Tax benefit is always there, but diversification is critical. If you invest in stocks versus invest in real estate, stock is more risky. But real estate is safety, security, and appreciation, and tax benefit. Yes, you get all those factors from one investment. Okay. So when you buy a rental property, like I said, there's no limit on the loan. Like in family home, there's a limit on the loan. Up to 750K interest deduction is allowed, up to 750K of loan. In case of rental properties, there's no limit of $750,000. There's no limit of $1 million. You can deduct the full amount. In fact, if you take a HELOC loan, HELOC is home equity line of credit on your home, that is also fully deductible. There's no limit. There's no 100,000 limit applicable there. You can deduct fully that HELOC interest against the rental income, the income that is coming in. It becomes tax free because you can deduct the full amount of taxes, property taxes, and interest, and it creates tax income in your pocket. You don't pay any taxes on this one. Now, if you convert the real estate, like earlier I said, if you convert the real estate into active, making a business, then you can deduct all the other expenses too. You can hire your kid also in the business. You can show payroll for the kid. You can do Roth IRA for the kid. You can do a lot of planning into all those areas. Lot of planning. So look always of converting real estate as a passive to active. Depreciation. Depreciation, what is depreciation? Depreciation is a paper expense. You don't do anything to get that expense. For others, we pay money and get that expense. But depreciation, we don't do anything. It's given by the law. Depreciation is based on the life of the property. If you're buying residential property, it's 27.5 years. And if you're buying commercial, it's 31 years. The 27.5 is equal to around 4% of the value of the building. So we take that out, then it's not depreciable. Let's say we bought a rental property for $1 million. 30% will be land. 300K will be out. Rest 700K, get 4%. It's equal to 58,000. That's equal to $2,200 every month of tax-free income in your pocket. Where can you get that income tax-free in your pocket? You need to rent real estate. You need to rent your home, renting your property. You can convert your family home also into rental. You can have rental part of your home as a for rental purposes. It can be partly rental, partly residential. You can do all those benefits. But depreciation is a key word. You owning real estate, particularly rental real estate, particularly investment property. It helps a lot. And if you're running the real estate as a business, the loss that will come because of depreciation, because of mortgage interest deduction, because of property tax deduction, the loss can be used to set off your budget income, any other income. That's how ex-president Trump did not pay any taxes, because he was able to deduct all those losses because he's a real estate professional. That's why he did not pay any tax. He has a lot of income, but he was able to set off from real estate. So depreciation definitely one important. To increase the depreciation, you can do cost aggregation study. Cost aggregation is looking at your improvements from tax point of view, like plumbing, electrical, and all this other stuff. So if you're running the business as an active business, real estate as a business, then you can do cost segregation, and with the cost segregation, you can use more depreciation, you can use more losses, and that losses can be used to set up your online incomes. Then we have a very important deduction that happened with the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. This is known as qualified business income. Qualified business income deduction, which is also applicable to real estate. That means 20% of the income, of course, you have to convert the real estate to business. But 20% of that income from the real estate is tax free. Provided you should not exceed 20% of your overall taxable income. So if you're making $300,000 taxable income after all the deductions, and you're making 20,000 from the real estate business, 20%, 20,000 is $4,000. $4,000 is in paying taxes. But your overall taxable income, since it's less than, the limit is 364,000, married filing joint. Since it is less than 364,000, you can get that $4,000 extra deduction on your tax. Where else can you get? Only through real estate. Of course, there is a requirement of spending 250 hours. Now, in the real estate business, real estate investment, the IRS has hours for managing it. There's 750 hours, there is 250 hours, there is 500 hours. When you talk about the hours, if you are married for a joint return, it can be your hours as well as your spouse hours. It's not only yours. So if you and your spouse are managing it and putting more than 250 hours, you get this valuable deduction automatically. If you are invested in a different state, invested in Texas, a lot of people are invested in Texas, a lot of people are invested in North Carolina, a lot of people are invested in other states, you can still get the TBI deduction. Provided your income level should be less than 364,000. Of course, if you're working by yourself, you're a sole proprietor, you have to pay FICA tax, 15.3% of your net profit is subject to FICA tax. But if you have a net rental income, it's not subject to FICA tax. The reason for that is it's a passive. Unless you do it as a business, then it's subject to FICA tax. So this is also benefit. Then the most important benefit of owning your estate, capital gains. The one largest area advantage. Why capital gains? So there's one known as long-term capital gains. The long-term capital gains is like selling the property after owning for more than 1 year. After owning more than 1 year. So if you sell a property, again, we are talking about not primary home. I told you it's exclusion of $500,000. If you provided you own and use it for 2 out of 5 years. This is rental real estate we're talking about. So if you're doing rental real estate and you're holding that property for more than 1 year and you sell it, of course you get a preferential tax treatment. What is that preferential tax treatment? Federal is 15 to 20% only. The bracket can be regular federal tax rate can be anywhere from 25% to 37%. But in this, you pay only 15 to 20%. California, of course, you pay the same rate. There's only one rate for long term. This California, it can be your ordinary rate. But federal, you pay 15 to 20% only. Again, it depends on your income levels. If you're making more than $500,000, the federal rate is 20%. If you're making less than $500,000, the federal rate is 15%. It can be 0% too. It can be 0% if your income is less than $80,000, married filing joint. So what people do generally work around is they start looking at gifting to the kids. I don't recommend it, gift to kids, but that's the way around it. So you can look into without gifting to the parents. They can own the property and they can sell it after 1 year. And the bracket can be lower. So it depends. So there is a planning involved into that. Then the reason why I said real estate is the most tax efficient investment is because you don't pay any tax. So if you are selling a home, primary home, you get $500,000 gain exclusion. If you're renting a home and you then sell that home, and there's some gain there. Of course, you pay taxes, but there are ways out to not to pay tax. So what are those? It's 1031 exchange. 1031 exchange is buying a rental property, selling a one rental property and buying another rental property of the same equal or same or higher value. So if you buy within 45 days, if you close within 180 days, identify the property within 45 days, 45 days and 180 days rule is there. If you do all those things within that period, whatever tax you're going to pay on the gain arising from selling of the old property, you can defer it to the new property. Don't pay any taxes. If you keep doing this, that's why it's very difficult to find 1031 exchange properties, right? Very difficult to find because everybody is in the line for buying those properties. The values are high, but anyway, you don't pay taxes at all. There's a way out. What is that way out? You can go back to the 1031 exchange property as a family home and stay there for more than 3 years. Then you can sell it. There's no tax here. Or you leave it to the kids. When you die, they inherit that property tax free. So there's no tax. You don't have to pay any taxes if you do this 1031 exchange. Then there's a qualified opportunity fund, which also was part of Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Thanks to President Trump again, he did this. Again, he's a real estate investor, he's a businessman. He did everything to benefit you. So qualified opportunity funds is the way to defer taxes on the capital gains. These funds are invested in low income housing sector. So what is happening with this one is, whatever tax you're going to pay when you sell the property on the gain, you can defer that gain. You can invest that gain, not the full amount. In 1031, you put the full amount of the sale price. In this, you only put the gain element into the qualified opportunity funds. Whatever tax you're paying today, you have to pay it 2 years later, because this is going to go in 2025, maybe 2026. This may not be there. It depends on who wins that in 24. If President Trump comes back, of course, he will extend it. If President Biden is still there, he may or may not do this. But whatever tax you pay today, 2 years later, you can pay that tax. But the most important thing is people keep that capital gains money in the qualified opportunity fund for 10 years from the day of the investment. If you keep it for 10 years, the growth invest in those funds is tax-free. So if you pull that money after 10 years, let's say you have a gain of $200,000, and you sell a property of $1 million. You don't have to invest $1 million. You have just invest $200,000 into qualified opportunity funds. That $200,000 grew to $400,000 at the end of 10th year. The $200,000 extra that you gain for investing in this fund is tax-free. It's tax-free. Your eyes and ears always, when you hear the word tax-free, you get very excited. Everybody gets excited. This is a way to make tax-free income. So one important rule here is to do this, you have to invest the gain in the qualified opportunity funds within 180 days. In 1031 exchange, we have 45 days and we have 180 days. Here we have 180 days from the date of the sale. If you're selling something today, let's say you sell something, your property, any property, it can be family home too. If you're a family home and if the gain is more than $500,000, you can put the excess gain into this qualified opportunity funds. Okay, and you can defer the tax for 2 years from now. Whatever tax you're paying today, 2 years later you pay the same amount. So you get gain value, and 10 years later the growth is tax free. So it's a very good incentive there. Then we have a very creative charitable limited trust. If you have a very highly appreciated real estate, highly appreciated, you keep thinking, what should I do? Now, the gain is, if you sell the property, the gain is 1 million to 10 million to 100 million. Why get worried? Because you have to pay enormous taxes. So you can take that CRT. It's a complex transaction. but it saves a lot. A lot of my clients do that. They save like millions of dollars in taxes. This is another way to save taxes. Important area which has developed since 2000, I think, 2018, 19, is short-term rentals. Airbnb, you must have heard. Getting those property also very tough in the industry, because there's few of people buying those properties. And one reason for that is you can become a real estate professional without passing the real estate exam, without doing 250 hours. You just need 100 hours. 100 hours to put into real estate. The only two things you have to look into is the average stay in your rental property should be, the average stay of your customer should be less than 7 days. So no customer can stay in that property more than 7 days. And you should be putting more than 100 hours, you and your spouse. Right? And you should maintain that unit, short-term rentals, as like a hotel unit. If you go to a hotel, you know you're there every day. Your room is clean. Then they give all the fresh things, fresh soaps and fresh all the other things. Same thing you have to do with that Airbnb. This one. So you should be putting multiple participation is there. It should be 100 hours, as I said. And then the when using the 100 hours or more, it's the material person cash individual means it's a 3%, not a company. You can rotate out cleaners because 100 hours you should be spending more than the other people. So if your cleaners spending more than 100 hours, you will reach for 100 hours. But if you have them, rotate them and subcontractors so that no single person is spending more time on the property than you do. So what hours count towards material participation? All activities they are cleaning the unit yourself, coordinating, cleaning crew, contractors, collecting lands, taking photos of rental listings, directly communicating with guests, posting listing on rental platform, usually walking through the property for inspection purpose, performing repairs and maintenance on property yourself. An important thing we need to understand this is, a lot of people say, I'm putting hours in locating a property. No, that's not the business. That's not short-term rental. That's not allowed. That's an investor. You're looking as an investor. Some people will say, I go and deposit check into them. That is not a business activity. So these are the hours that count. So make a logbook of your hours. Don't forget to put all the hours, the driving hour, driving hour from your home to the rental property. All those time gives a valuable tax deduction because the losses from the real estate can be used to offset the other income. And utilize the time of both spouses. I told you not one. So these are some other way you can use it. Now for real estate tax planning, there are other ways. There are a lot of ways you can do. We talked about part residential, part rental. Of course, you can take the depreciation. Only thing you have to be careful here, there is a recapture depreciation, but you pay only 25% at the time of selling the property, and you can claim the losses from the day one. Then of course we talk about 1031 exchange qualification in the funds. If you are doing active real estate, you can open an LLC and you can show management of that property, and you can hire kids. You can do RAPA area for them. You can, for yourself, you can do solar home plan. You can do a lot of the stuff in this. So you can be creative, and you can get a lot of depreciation, bonus depreciation, everything. So when you buy a rental property, whatever improvement, not only improvement, whatever things you buy, furniture or new oven or new refrigerator, just make sure you get full depreciation on that on those. That's it. So thank you for coming over.
Thank you so much.
So that concludes at least the panel portion. We're going to be moving on to the Q&A that was open up to you for any of your questions you have for our panelists. Does anyone have any questions?
I do have one. So you talked about this great tax benefit to turning a property into a real estate business. What are the steps? Well, the first thing is whether you are looking at short-term rental or long-term rental. If you're looking at short-term rental, that 100 hours requirement is there. Spend time on managing that real estate. If you are looking at long-term rental, then you have to pass a real estate exam. You have to spend 750 hours in managing real estate. 750 hours in a year. So if you have 2080 hours, 750 is 1/3. To maintain that, if you have that, then it becomes a business. So that hour it determines whether you are real estate professional or not professional. Do we need to set up an LLC for this purpose? Do we have LLC? LLC you can do. Of course, LLC, I told you LLC you can do. You can set up an LLC for managing the real estate. You can hire kids inside bank, you can do lot hire for the kids. Yeah, you can do that. Yeah. Thanks.
Question will be for Ryan. Yes, so I understood the pre-approval is the first and very important process for real estate property. And so let's suppose we apply for the pre-approval, but still we have not decided where are we going to do our investment, which house, because we still get started. But I understand, yes, we have to have something in our pocket, but still we even don't know whether we gonna invest in real estate or not. So what's the best time? Like how long we can use that pre-approval, and is there any disadvantages in terms of our credit score to get that pre-approval? Because maybe yes, we're gonna get the pre-approval, there's something in our pocket, present ourselves as a strong buyer, but we're gonna look at the market and we decided, all right, you know what, it's not for me. Is there a disadvantage? Just say you can use approval, or we get the pre-approval, it's on our pocket, we look like we present ourselves as a strong buyer, but we decided, but we cannot find something good for ourselves. It takes some time. How long we have to make the initial final decision?
Thank you for your question. It's a very good question. Typically, a pre-approval lasts for 90 days. That's because that's the term that a credit report that will fall expired. It's only good for 90 to 120 days. Typically, though, what I do with my clients is during the initial consultation, I try to understand what phase of the home buying process they're at. So, depending on how interested you are at immediately making an offer, I may postpone calling your credit report to a later point in time. I would ask for a consumer report to at least review your credit history and your credit score. But I can postpone doing that. Then obviously, if you want a fully underwritten loan, then that will require you to call a hard credit. And will give you a 90-day window to shop for property. Once that period passes, we can always update it. Now, I don't try to do that too often because every hard inquiry will have to credit scores. That it also depends on your situation. If you have a very long credit history and your credit scores are in the 800s, it doesn't really matter if you have 2 or 3 credit inquiries because once your credit score is above 780, there's no pricing difference in mortgage rates. So it only depends on the individual situation, but the big guidelines probably about 90 days in terms of how soon the approval will expire.
And I think, so even not even going to like full approval, just the initial to understand where things are, it would be really helpful to get even just a pre-qualification to see, okay, well, it is doable for me. So, or what should I do to make it like more doable until you make a decision, and then you can just go to the next step, just going like underwriting, system for the next step. So we have a lot of clients that it takes like more than 3 months. We exceed that time to find the house or like just to get into the contracts. And in that case, we are just getting ready how to proceed, but just the initial thing, it was just very, very helpful for a long-term plan.
Yes, I totally agree with Utu there, and just to add to her perspective for your question. So pre-approval is crucial, yes, to put an offer, but before you come to that point, establishing a relationship with a lender or with a couple of lenders, just to understand what everybody is offering, whom are you connected with, that's number one step. And then let's say you decide to work with Brian, okay, great. So number two, and I think the most important thing in the home buying process is to understand what are you eligible for financially? Are we able to, maybe you think you're eligible to look for only, let's say, $1 million loans. But actually, maybe Ryan will make a calculation, hearing your story without even pulling your credit, right? It's a pre-qualification process. Maybe we'll say, sorry, Aidan, you're only eligible for 500, or maybe we'll say, oh, good news, Aidan, actually you're eligible for 2 million. Again, it's up to you what amount of money you want to spend, but eligibility is the key because that will define what's the maximum purchase price that you can make. Then you're gonna start shopping around with a realtor and try to understand, okay, what fits into this budget? Am I gonna be happy with my purchase? Okay, Ryan tells you you're eligible for 1 million. Okay, what's out there for 1 million? Am I gonna do this purchase? Yes, I will, or I will not. And at that point, when you're doing that, when you're in that process, if you like something, you're already pre-qualified. Ryan has pretty much all your details, as long as all the details that you provided him are correct, and you have all your documentation in place. It takes so much time to get a pre-approval for someone, as long as you have the documents. Day or two. Given certain cases, we had to make exceptions because it's very urgent. It just comes with a couple of hours for someone, yes, someone that you know. Your paperwork is ready, your W-2, your all your papers, etc. And it's easy, but it's all about starting the process from somewhere and knowing your eligibility. What's your budget? So that's when we can also start helping you.
And also just like seeing, even by yourself, just like seeing a couple of properties, okay, is this like a house that like, that just like combined with a lifestyle, so what you like for your family, where do you want to live? Because this is gonna be a more permanent decision on your end, it's just more long-term. So just to feel what it would fit the best, combining those two elements before just going to the next step will be very, very helpful for the long term.
So let's say in Turkey, you inherit money or your family wants to help you with buying a house, or you have a business that you want to transfer some money for buying the property here. So what is the best way of managing that transfer over here?
So if the funds are coming from Turkey, so there are, as far as I understand, no restrictions. There are certain countries that have restrictions in sending the funds over, like for example, Ireland. But if it's coming from Turkey, the easiest way is to, I think, as long as the funds are available, to have it transferred directly into escrow. So once you're in contract, just wire the funds into an escrow account. It's a third-party account. The lender typically does not ask for a lot of documentation when it's transferred directly into escrow, because escrow will provide the wire transfer details. So there are certain things that a lender does when funds that are not directly under your name are used for purchasing a property. And we call it KITs. It's a way to document those large transfers. And it has no tax implications, because really how a lender documents those transfers, but they need to be documented regarding the federal requirements. Now, if this transfer, let's say, from your mom's account to your own account, then you would ask for deposit proofs in your account as well as wire proofs in your mother's account. And it could be international, it could be domestic. The requirements are pretty much the same. but they have to be in English, for example, so we can understand it. If the transfer is made directly into escrow after you're in contract, then it's easy for you to know how much you need to transfer and the documentation requirements are minimum. So that's my first recommendation. If you want to be really prepared and want to have the funds in your account ahead of time, then as long as we can provide the transfer documentation, then it can come into your account at any point, prior to transaction or during the transaction. The important thing is that documentation must be available. So there are certain situations where the parents hold the money in cash and they will never deposit it into a bank account. And they deposit it into a bank account to transfer to you. Then we can't switch the funds because cash that they hold not deposited in an institution cannot be paper trail. So if that's the case, then I would recommend the public transfer done ahead of time into your account and have it seasoned for 2 months. What I mean by that is certain banks start their statements on the first day of the month. So certain banks start their statements on the 15th of the month. A lender requires 2 months of statement. And within those 2 months, that cash transfer to your account should not be shown. So for example, you need to initiate the transfer, let's say 2.5, 3 months ahead of time, before your statements are generated. Then when the lender reviews your statements, then we see the balance already there. We don't have to track it. Typically the way I handle it is during the consultation, for the initial consultation, I try to understand their situation. And if it involves transferring cash or assets from a gift, then we plan ahead and handle that ahead.
So I have a tax thing I want to add there. If you receive a gift from your mother and it's more than 100,000, there's a form that you have to fill up with your tax returns. There's a way to telling the IRS where is the money coming out. So it's a form 3520 needs to be filled up. If you don't fill it up, your penalties are huge. And if you're selling something in the Turkey and bringing that money here, you have to declare that income here on the US tax returns. So beware of that rules. Okay, so it's not only banking loans, but you have to look at the tax numbers.
And also to add one more thing.
Just-
Go ahead. Yes.
Yes.
So US is based on worldwide income. US taxes are based on worldwide income. Any income that you make in any country outside US, you have to declare it. And if that country does not have direct tax of other city in the US, you have to pay taxes, double taxes. You pay your country taxes plus US country taxes. US taxes. So I think Turkey is one of those countries which they have signed a direct tax of one city. So you can get the credit for the tax you pay in Turkey, and it's the better tax you here, but you will not get credit for California tax. So you still end up paying the California tax. And if you don't do all those things, the FTV will come after your life. They're tracking all those international transfers, everything. So IRS is one animal, FTV is bigger animal than IRS.
So
if
it can be below 100,000.
So even if it's below 100,000, just fill that form, telling the IRS where the money is coming into their account. It's not where you're going to pay taxes. It's just telling the IRS that you're having this money coming to your bank account. Let's say you get audited 2 years later and they check your bank account. They will say, where is this money coming from? But if you file a form 3520, you don't have to say anything. They say we already run our part. There's no tax, it's just telling the IRS what is happening in here, where's the money coming from there? Foreign source. If you inherit something from foreign source, then also that form is required. In fact, inheritance is different because then you put that fair market value of what you're inheriting. That becomes your cost. And if you subsequently sell it, then you get lower capital gains. So it's very important. That forms is so critical. And a lot of CPA tax companies don't even know. So just be careful about it.
Like how many times that you can get like a gift like that? Is it like once a year or can you do it
No, you
like
can do multiple.
multiple? So
There's no limit.
no
Or from
limit.
There's no limit in coming. there's a limit on outgoing. You have 70,000 annual limit. For incoming, every country welcomes money coming from outside.
Also, I wanna, yeah, okay, thank you. Also, I wanna remind, so, we were talking about, the gift coming from Turkey and what do I do within the home buying process? Like when I said, yes, it could go direct to the escrow from Turkey. But let's not forget, like I mentioned before, when I was showing the flow chart. So there is a point where you're putting your offer and you have to show the proof of funds. So the proof of funds, ideally, the money should be here in a competitive offer, because let's say listing agent receives multiple offers. There's one offer with the funds here in a local US bank, the other one is outside. It's questionable. Is she gonna be able to transfer? Is it gonna come on time? Is this legitimate? You know, it raises a lot of question marks. So it's always better, like Ryan said, have the money earlier here, get it seasoned. So once you're at an offer stage, you have the proof of funds to the US account, here is my money.
And most of the clients, actually, almost
That's
all
what
of
they
the
do,
clients, they
yeah.
just want data, and it's just, they ask.
Exactly.
It answers well.
Thank you.
I have a question for Ryan. During the lending process, how do you treat the different types of properties, such as first home, second home, vacation home, investment home, single family homes, multi-family homes? What's the difference?
Great question. So single family primary residences are given preferential treatment in terms of mortgage interest rates, as well as the down payment, minimum down payment requirements.
What happened?
So I'm just going to talk about our area, because our area prices are so high, most of the loans are jumbo loans. So typically we're looking at 20 to 25% minimum down payment for jumbo loan. And that's our primary residence. If you're looking at an investment property, it starts at 30%. Realistically, you can buy with only 25% down, but the rate difference is huge. So
Which means what?
probably more than 0.75% interest rate difference. So, you know, when you buy an investment property or rental property, that really is truly an investment. So you have to look at your returns. And at some point, when the rates are so high, it diminishes your returns. So for an investment property to make sense, then it's more common to see at least 30% down payment. But it is possible to do with 25.
Sometimes more the better, so that, you know, you can offset like just your rental income you are gonna get, so Ryan just fine tunes that amount. Like if you have more room, so to say, like maybe just go a little bit more, so that, you know, it's just
sweet
like
spot.
sweet spot that your cash flow, you are not like so much in negative, so there are like fine lines of the numbers.
So we look at the areas that you're interested in, look at the potential rental income from those properties, and then we look at your monthly payments and your obligations. And, you know, you could have a negative cash flow as long as it's manageable. But if it's so huge where, you know, it creates cash flow issues for you, then that's not the right investment property or not the right time to invest in a property.
And follow-up question, how do you treat long-term rental versus short-term rental? Is there any?
So Airbnb are typically not allowed.
Yeah, that's.
So in terms of
We
mortgage
should talk
finance,
about short-term rental.
Right. it's not allowed.
Yeah.
So only long-term rentals are allowed.
To get the short-term rental, you can borrow money from your family, and put it there. By HELOC, so you can HELOC or you cash out your money.
Or cash out finance transactions and purchase the property in cash.
That's it. A lot of people do that because, like I said, up to 750K interest is limited. But if you invest that money, if you take more loans and invest in a property, then it's fully deductible against the rental income or investment income. And how do you compare the HELOC rates versus the investment rates?
Right now, they're actually pretty similar. But HELOC is not fixed. HELOC is month-to-month variable. That's by definition, it's a line of credit. So typically, if you're buying a rental property, even if you purchase with a HELOC, you would look to actually fix the rates with a longer term loan. And then pay off the HELOC.
I just started to be a little bit more careful on the Airbnbs because, for instance, Napa. So we were just talking about it. Napa is now, it's illegal
Right.
to do like under 30. And now there are like more and more
New York
cities,
is
like
also-
exactly, New York just got out of that
Right.
completely. And we just see more and more local governments, local cities around us, like just putting a cap or completely stopping that practice of short-term rentals. So if you go towards that direction, probably it's just better to just check with the local government or the city governments for that.
Also, that reminds me another point very important, which we haven't talked about. When it comes to condos or even townhouses, there is an HOA always.
HOA.
So
Actually, it's deductible, by the way.
So it's extremely important also to check with your realtor. What are the rental restrictions that HOA has? So it's not just about, you will pretty much always see Airbnb is not allowed. But also there's a certain percentage of the units within that complex that can be rented out.
Restrictions.
So it differs from
Yeah.
HOA to HOA. Some will say maximum 20% of units can be granted. And if they have already reached that quota, you have to be waiting in line. So do you want to do that? So if you're buying it purely for renting it, then it might not be a good place. Or they can say, before you rent it out, you have to live here for 1 year. Again, do you want that? You don't want that. Or, I don't know, they can have other rental restrictions of for how long you can rent it, etc. So this is
HOAs
something
are
very
very
important to check.
Just to be on the safe side, we should be avoiding HOAs and.
I would
for
agree,
the
you should get
So-
HOAs, but just before you get in, so just because there are like CCNRs, bylaws and like HOA documents that will be provided for you. So before you sign in, so we just like, this is our job, basically, we go
Exactly.
through that to see what kind of restrictions that specific conflict has, so that, if it is like good, like we can make it in, or if it's gonna be an issue, especially if it is gonna be a rental.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and it's not just about rental restrictions, HOAs have
Crazy.
it's so many different rules, like
Yeah,
I
yeah,
know
yeah.
one of my clients,
It's association, right?
he loves growing plants. But in that complex, as per HOA rules, you're not allowed to put any plants in your balcony.
Right, right.
Yeah.
That was one of the
Yeah, it's
reasons,
very-
he loved the plants, but he couldn't get into it just because he cannot just put his plants, and it was a no for him.
Yeah.
You never know what might be restricted, so it's extremely important, right? Your dogs are quite compliant there, like, so they
Things
have-
are just like, especially in our area, like
Yeah.
quite high, so that's why we always check with Ryan, who says, okay, this is our like, the loan is at this. And with that, if we are looking for a town on condo, so what is our threshold that we should not exceed? Because it's like a monthly payment, like a recurring payment. We need to be very careful because it's gonna be on top of your like monthly dues, like for mortgage. So we are a little bit careful on that, so that like there is just a balance.
Good.
If we go towards that direction.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Maybe
There's some feedback for you outside.
Thank you.